Hey everybody, welcome to the Ins and Outs with Lynn and Liam, who's above me on my screen, but I think he's that way. Where we each think of an art or find an article and we talk about it and we make jokes about it and we do a little sexual health at the same time. I say it every week, but I think we have really good articles this week. Do you agree, Liam?
Yeah, I think they're pretty solid. And you do say that every week, and I think every week we have pretty great articles because we're just awesome.
Sometimes we don't. I mean, sometimes the articles are just okay. But so this week we're going to start with mine. And mine was from yahoo.com, which is the ultimate source for sexual health information. Just kidding. But I think it's funny to think that I found this article on yahoo.com because it doesn't seem like something they would share. But it's everything you need to know about ethical non-monogamy. And are you familiar with ethical non-monogamy, Liam?
So I am, but this is actually the first time I've ever heard that term used before. So I've always just called it like poly or open. I've never actually heard anybody call it consensual non-monogamy.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting because it's really meant to really differentiate that it's not like an ethical consensual situation if you just have bonus partners without telling your partner, right? That's just called cheating. And so it really highlights the fact that like if you're gonna have these relationships and you want to be respectful to your partner, that there has to be like an ethicalness to it, which includes, communicating.
Definitely. And I actually think like cheating to me, like I actually don't care too much about like that kind of thing. But I think like the act of cheating is like almost like non-consensual sex because like your partner is consenting to having sex with you on these stipulations, right? And so if you're lying to them about it, it's almost like coercion. And it's almost like you're coercing them into having sex, which makes it a bit non-consensual. So if you're cheating on your partner, it's almost like you're having non-consensual sex with them.
Interesting, because they've agreed to have sex with you in this relationship under the terms that you're only together.
Yeah. So if you were to cheat and you're breaking that kind of agreement, then they're no longer consenting to sex.
Interesting. I'm not sure I agree, but I see your perspective.
Yeah.
And so the article really goes over everything that you need to do if you're going to consider this and some like common misconceptions. And I think one of the really interesting common misconceptions it includes is like a lot of times people say, or there's like this perception that like your relationship is in trouble. And so you're like doing this last ditch effort to like save your relationship. And they're basically like, no, this requires a ton of communication and like trust and ongoing talking and negotiating. And so it's really actually not ideal for that situation.
Yeah, they said like if you're trying to do this to save your relationship, it's not a good idea. It's like just like you shouldn't get a dog to save your relationship. Like if it's not working out, it's not working out.
Right. I also just think it's really interesting the level of consent that needs to be had. Like they mentioned one thing that I never really thought about, but it was you have to make sure your partner isn't going along with it because they feel like they might lose you if they don't.
Yeah.
And I'm not easily coerced, but I could see myself, because I'm kind of like prickly, I could see myself being in a situation at a younger age where if somebody brought this up to me, I might say, well, I don't want to say no because I don't want to seem X, Y, or Z, or I don't want them to leave me. And I might find myself saying yes to things like this if I didn't want to.
Definitely. And I mean,
which I thought was.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay.
I was gonna like that's kind of something we teach our kids all the time, right? We're always talking about like think about what you want, and if that's not what you want, make sure you're stating that. Like, make sure you're very upfront with people about like, I don't want to have sex with you right now, or I don't know if I want to have sex, so that's a no. Like, same thing with these kind of relationships. You have to kind of be comfortable enough in yourself to be able to say no to someone.
Right. The article also discusses the other type, like the different types. And I think that's another thing we don't really think about. So there could be like non-monogamy where you have multiple relationships, like me and you could be in a relationship and then I could have my husband, and like that's not, I'm not suggesting anything. Or it could be, sometimes I just make examples and they're not very good. Or it could just be like you go out to a bar and you pick somebody up, right? Or anything in between. There can also be like non-sexual relationships. We learned that recently, right? Like you can be in a relationship with multiple people and only some of them become sexual. And I was thinking about this article for two reasons recently. One, because of that man, Jerry Falwell.
Mm-hmm.
Because it seems to me that they might have had some sort of ethically non-monogamous situation going on, right? She had bonus partners. I don't know what he was doing, but they were not having a traditional one-to-one relationship.
Yes, but I don't know if that relationship's a bit hard because it's not like super consensual because they were like paying the dudes off. And most of the dudes were like their employees or their students, so that affects the consensualness of it.
Yeah, that's a good point. The other reason is because I have followed this person who's a sexual health educator. She went to the same school as our coworker Shayla does, Widener, and she did a research on the impacts of eating disorders on like sexual health and like sexuality. But she has a partner, and her name is Melissa Fabello, and her partner recently started an Instagram, and they do all these really great Q&As all the time, and they talk about like their ethically non-monogamous relationship. And so I've been getting all this really cool like personal Q&A questions, and so it made me want to learn more. And so that's why I was interested in the different types, because I didn't realize that there really was like it could be anything. It could be hookups to long-term relationships to relationships living together. It's varied.
Yeah, it's even like primary and secondary partners too, which I always found kind of like interesting. Like I have my primary partner who I live with, but then we also have a secondary partner who I'm still like dating and have like these emotions with, but they don't live with me, or like they're like just a little bit less than this one partner, which sounds interesting. Like the reasons I'm just like how do you like, I don't know, like how do you like define that like to other people, right? Like how do you tell someone else you're my secondary? That just sounds like
it would hurt my feelings.
Yeah, right. Like,
yeah. Well, that's maybe, like, the key to communication, right?
It is. And non-monogamous people, every time I talk about this kind of thing, I always talk about how much better they are at communicating than I could ever be. Like every non-monogamous couple I know, consensually non-monogamous couple I know, they're very open communicators. Like a friend of mine who does it, like he even like cries to his husband about like relationship issues he's having with secondaries. And
yeah, I would not.
Yeah, I couldn't. I would just I just don't want to listen to people crying in general, and B, not about some other person you're trying to have sex with.
Yeah, I think I'm too jealous. I don't get jealous, but I get very like territorial.
Yeah, so you don't think you could be in a consensual non-monogamous relationship?
No, I don't think I could. I also don't have any sort of time or mental bandwidth to deal with other people at the deep level that a relationship takes.
Yeah.
Right? Like a relationship is hard.
It is.
The thought of having to do that twice or 3 times makes me really unhappy. But the communication part is so interesting because they said that you should like communicate, like set up schedules, like, okay, Liam, you and I are together on Tuesday and Thursdays, and me and whoever as Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or whatever, and then communicate where you're going and all of sorts of layers of communication. And I just find that so interesting because I can't relate to it. Like I would just die. I would just be like, no, you're not going, which is why I could never be in this relationship.
Yeah, I mean, I think I could do this kind of relationship in like some ways. Like I could definitely not have a second boyfriend, right? Like you said, this is too much work. Like I barely like communicating with my current husband.
Current husband.
And like but I think I could do like more of like an open relationship, right? Where like there was an agreement that you could go out and have sex with someone else if you wanted to. But I don't think my current husband could do that. He is definitely the jealous type.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess you're right. It would have to be like it would have to, and I think a different time in my life, right? Like I really love my husband and I'm not really in need of any sort of extra emotional or whatever support.
Yeah.
But like when I was 23, maybe, sure, right?
Yeah.
So how common do you think ethical non-monogamy is in America?
I think it is mildly common, but I think that people don't tell other people about it.
Yeah, I agree. And I looked it up. Currently, 4 to 5% of Americans engage in some sort of ethical non-monogamy.
Did you say 425 or 4D5?
4 to 5, so 1 out of 20.
Okay.
And then in their lifetime, 20% of people say they have done some sort of ethical non-monogamy.
Huh.
That's a lot.
So I wonder if that study though also includes like threesomes in it.
Oh.
Or like group sex, because that's technically consensual non-monogamy, right? And that's
or like dating, right? Or like when you're 22 and you're like dating lots of people and you're clear that that's what you're doing, maybe.
And definitely like threesomes I think are very much more common than people think they are, so I could definitely see that.
You think?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Interesting. I have like this weird naivete or whatever where I assume nobody does anything interesting.
Yeah.
Like I have an assumption that nobody uses drugs. Like it's unbelievable. And I don't have anything against drugs, but I'm just like when I find out that somebody like uses drugs, I'm like, what? When? Like I have no idea. And Pat thinks it's so funny because I'm just like, what do you mean you use drugs? I didn't know you use drugs. Not that using drugs is illegal, but I assume 0 people do.
That's also funny because like you read YRBS reports, you know that people are doing drugs.
Yeah. And I just assume like I assume none of my friends are using drugs. And then when I find out, I'm just like shocked. Like if you could tell me something, Liam, and I would just be blown away.
Wow.
The other thing that I thought was interesting is that they said that studies show that people who engage in non-monogamy are more satisfied with life in general and with sex, with their like sex fulfillment.
Definitely. I mean, that's like, I feel like an obvious, like if you can do non-monogamy, consensual non-monogamy, like correctly, where you have that kind of communication and stuff, I feel like in general, you kind of have this, I know how to communicate my wants and needs in a way to get them satisfied. And if you can, then yeah, you're going to be much more happy. Yeah,
but I was shocked because I thought there'd be more people who tried and it went poorly.
Yeah.
And so they were like they're like, man, this was not good.
But that's also not what that's saying, right? That's just saying people who it works for,
that's true. Really for them. Right, because if it didn't work, they wouldn't identify as using it.
Yeah. So I'm sure for a lot of people it doesn't work out well. But it's probably because, they just didn't like it or they couldn't communicate well enough. Or maybe one person wanted it, the other person didn't, right? Because we all had different wants and needs.
I've also just read some articles because I went down a rabbit hole after this of people who like started doing non-monogamy and then, so this happens a lot in just life in general. You like somebody and then you don't realize that they're just like bad or not interesting or boring for like a while. And so there's like some funny stories of like, yeah, this person moved in with us and then it turns out that I actually hated them because people, it can take weeks or months before you realize that you're just like, I don't really like this person.
Oh yeah. I mean, there's plenty of people who I don't like and I would never want to like live with.
But there's plenty, and they fool you. They fool you into thinking like that they're cool. And then you spend like a weekend with them on a trip and you're like, oh my God, what am I doing?
All right. You find out they don't like vegan cheese or something. It's just all ruined.
Or you find out that they do like vegan cheese.
They do like vegan cheese.
For anybody who's watching, Liam once made me eat a vegan cheese charcuterie board.
I did not make you. There was no coercion involved.
No, but there was societal pressure.
There was societal pressure, but that's not my fault.
No, I blame our coworker, Chris.
Yeah. One thing I found funny about this article is they did mention like getting a therapist that specializes in non-monogamous relationships. And I was like, A, where could you find one in Buffalo, right? B, really, do you need a therapist? Like, how privileged is it where you can go to a therapist to kind of figure out, like, I'm in love with someone, I have a great relationship going on, I have enough money to afford a therapist, and I want to have sex with other people. Like,
Well, and you know that they're not going to accept your insurance. Like, that's an out-of-pocket expense.
oh yeah, definitely not accepting insurance.
Yeah. Yeah. I thought about that. I'm like, it's really hard to find a therapist who, I don't know if you've had this experience, but it's hard to find a good therapist, let alone a therapist who's got like this interesting subcategory of certification or whatever.
Yeah, like, so I've never been to therapy, so I don't really know, but I do know, like, I have to sometimes try to find therapists to do sexual assessments on adults with developmental disabilities, and there are, like, one in the whole entire Western New York area, and they're always booked up because people are always trying to get these assessments done.
Yeah. The other thing about therapy is, like, it's hard to get in frequently. I am open that I love therapy. And so I feel like to take the time to negotiate like a non-monogamous relationship, it would take you like 4 months because sometimes you can only get in like once every few weeks.
Yeah.
And you only have an hour. And so it's like, you'd have to start, if we start this conversation now, it would take us to like February to really negotiate all of the things because, and by then, I mean, I don't know, it just seems like a long process.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean,
Plus
even just like
expensive.
getting to see me, I have like a hard time like getting people in more than like once a month for like recurring programming.
Right. And the person I'm sure is going to be like, listen, lady, I have issues of like people who are like suicidal or who have like deep COVID anxiety. And I'm like, can you help me set up some rules for non-monogamy?
Right? Can't you just set up yourself?
And it'd be like $150 a week.
Yeah, at least.
Cool. I am out of things to say about yahoo.com's non-monogamy.
I don't even remember who like did mine. I feel like it was like the Rochester one. So mine is actually local news. And I think, yeah, it was done by like Rochester City newspaper, which I didn't even know there was a newspaper in Rochester called the Rochester City newspaper. The only one I know about is like the Democrat Chronicle or whatever it's called.
Well, I think it is the Rochester NPR affiliate.
Oh, I was thinking it was more like the Public or Art Voice before Art Voice went all.
Yeah, and before the Public died.
Yeah,
Right.
So yeah, this article is about the Rochester Fringe Festival, which is still happening currently, I guess. And it is about a play being put on by a person named Cameron Moore. And they used to be a phone sex operator. And this play is loosely based on their life as a phone sex operator. So they were a phone sex operator for 8 years. And it's really funny. She's like, at first I struggled. I didn't really like it. But then after a while, it became like just like any other job. And she had customers she liked and didn't like. But she didn't like and dislike her customers because of like what they wanted sexually. It was more like they were just rude customers and like they gave me bad, like, you know, just it was just like having any other kind of bad customer.
Yeah, I really liked that. It was like, yeah, they weren't like rude or they weren't like sexually weird. Some people, it's just like, you work at Wegmans, you have bad customers. I'm a phone sex operator. I have bad customers. It's very funny to think about.
Yeah, that's how like normalized it was. And that was the whole point of her play is she tried to like, she wanted to create a play that showcased phone sex in like a way that kind of like shows everything. And so we've kind of talked about this on a couple different topics, right? Where we've talked about how good representation is representation that like gives you a full view of what someone's life is like. And bad representation is where like you're just kind of stealing the culture.
Right, and it's not like sensational at all. Like, I like the idea that it's like, this is what the day is like, and some of it is like not interesting, and some of it is pretty interesting.
Yeah, and she specifically chose like the stories she had. Like she said, she had like stories that were like quote unquote crazier, like for sexual deviantness. But she chose ones that like really, she chose four talk calls, and that really like showcased what phone sex is like. Not just like this one crazy person called who wanted to have sex with his grandma while popping green balloons.
Right. Back to the customer thing real quick. I also like the idea that there are good customers. So like I go to the coffee shop every day and I walk in and they're like, oh, Lynn's here. Hey, Lynn. I like the idea that there's also the equivalent like, oh, hey, like long time no see or whatever on the sex line.
Yeah, I thought the same thing because like I have similar experiences. Like I used to work in a restaurant, so I had like customers I liked. And I used to like every morning on the way to go to school, I would stop at Louis Hot Dogs on the corner of Delaware and Hurdle and get a coffee. And the woman would see me walking up and start pouring my coffee. And she was the nicest lady. I barely had any money, so I could rarely tip her. I tipped her like 25 cents. But she was always like so nice to me. We had such great conversations in the morning. It was a great place to stay warm while I was waiting for my bus. And yeah, it's funny to think that I never thought like, oh, it's Bob again.
Yeah. Yeah. I just like it's so sweet. I like that she said it's neither good nor bad, it's an experience.
Yeah.
Which I think is really interesting because people probably think like, well, a lot of people think it's bad, but she's like, no, it's like neither. It's just like something you do.
Yeah, it's just like a job.
Right. Like working at Louis Hot Dogs.
Yeah, which love Louis Hot Dogs. Like seriously, a 3 hot dog with Louis sauce, onions, mustard, and an order of fries is my dream.
I didn't know they had coffee.
Yes. Yeah. So when I was a kid, I wouldn't get hot dogs or anything. I got coffee every morning. And then when I had enough money, like if I just got paid or I got good tips, I would get a tuna melt for breakfast.
Where? Wait, the Louis that was on the corner of
Delaware and Hurdle. Still there. I go there all the time.
Oh, I'm thinking about the Louis on Elmwood.
Oh, I mean, they're all owned by the same people.
And they're open for breakfast?
Yeah, I think they're open like 24/7. There's like a diner.
I've only ever been there after midnight.
After midnight, yes. So one thing I did think when I was like reading this article though, as soon as I saw the article, my first thought was, there's still phone sex operators? Like I thought that career had gone by the wayside, and I'm reading it, and she's like, yeah, I did it for 8 years, and I stopped in 2016 and moved to England. And I was like, 2016? Like, hadn't people moved to like porn online yet? Where's fans only?
Yeah, it's like the old version of Cam Girls.
Yeah. Like the old version of Cam Girls.
Yeah. Well, you know, there's still people who like write erotic fiction and stuff.
Yeah.
Are there services where you can sexy text message people?
I don't know. I'm sure there are.
There's gotta be.
But I do know like there are websites where you can like go read like erotic erotic fiction, right?
I know. I hear it. I hear if you're good at it, you can make a decent side amount of money writing erotic fiction.
I feel like there's like erotic fiction that's like Showtime after hours erotic fiction, and then there's like erotic fiction that's like not allowed on cable.
Huh. Well, yeah. And then there's like fan fiction.
And then there's fan fiction. And those also go both ways, right? They're like, there's some that are like hardcore, really in depth, really like graphic about the sexual content. And there's other ones where it's like, and my breast heaved.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't read anything like that. I don't find reading to be pleasurable.
I have read things like that before, like Tumblr. I used to use Tumblr for porn all the time, and it had like random stories on it that you could read. They're fine sometimes, but yeah, I'm definitely like, I'm not trying to focus that hard while I'm doing my duty.
Yeah. I think I would go see this play if there was no COVID. But since there is COVID, you can watch it online, right?
Yes. So it's online tonight at 10:30. Tickets are $15, I think you said.
Yeah.
If you can't make it tonight because it's last minute, you can also go on the 25th at 10:30 and watch it. So if you just Google like Fringe Festival Rochester 2020, there's a list of like everything that's going on. So check it all out. I love Fringe festivals, especially like the one in Buffalo is amazing. The one in Rochester, I'm sure is dope. But yeah, if you want to check this out, I'm not gonna be able to watch it tonight, but I might try to watch it on the 25th.
Yeah. I actually would really like to watch it next Friday.
Yeah, you should do a screening at the Connection.
I'm not sure it's appropriate. I wrote down the phrase specialization in my notes, but I can't figure out why I wrote it. Do you know why I wrote specialization?
For the phone girl thing?
Yeah.
No, is it whenever?
Oh, that's why. Yeah. Because there's a subgenre of people in phone sex. Did you read this?
Oh yeah.
And their whole thing is that they like frustrate their phone sex customers and then hang up on them as like a pleasure play sort of situation. And I am curious whether I'm curious what other specializations there are. Are there like accents? Like I don't know much about phone sex, but there's got to be like different types and different, like when you go to pornhub.com
Yeah.
and you pick like whatever category you pick.
Yeah.
There must be that, right?
Definitely that. But I also I've learned that you may like pick categories, right? Like while you're like going through like the phone operating thing, but you might still get like the same person who just like has an accent, or who's just like, I know this person wants me to demean them, so I'm just going to start demeaning them when they get on. So it's not always like they're specialized over here and specialized over here. Sometimes it's just like one person who is like just a good actor and can just like change the script every time they get someone new on the phone.
Yeah, well, that's a little disheartening.
I mean, I think that makes a true master.
Yeah. I I guess I would just be disappointed to know that there's not just like a whole, yeah. I mean, I guess it's like an act in some way, right? It's not like real. Yeah, wow. I just Googled another phone sex article.
Oh, really?
Well, from 2012.
Yeah, this one's like obviously pretty recent. I think it came out like
Yeah.
yesterday.
Yeah.
One thing I was thinking when I was reading it is that we have all these, we have terms now for like sex work and stuff like that. And I wondered as I was doing it, like, is phone sex operator still the appropriate term to be using? Or is there some new term?
Interesting. Like, are they just sex workers, but in a different way?
Yeah, that too. Like, are they part of that? I think I would consider them part of the sex work industry. But is it like a better term for them, for people that do that as their job? I feel like I shouldn't call them, right? Because that's like lumping categories. For people
So
whose job it is.
I just found an article, How to Become a Phone Sex Operator. And it's one of those wiki hows.
Yeah.
And it starts with that this is a good profession for people who want to make their own hours, enjoy working from home, and like creativity.
Nice.
And the first step would be to familiarize yourself with different interests.
Yeah, see? So you gotta know how to like do it all.
Yeah. You have to make sure you have a space where you can take phone calls uninterrupted. That seems like a really important thing. Yeah, I'm gonna search this farther. My voice, I'm not considering it because my voice is too nasal.
I was like, are you gonna drop out of college and pursue this as a career now?
No, I'm too nasal. I can barely be on the phone regular.
Yeah.
Also, I'm very awkward.
One other thing I like that she did is, so she did phone sex operations for 8 years, left in 2018 to go live with her husband or her partner in the UK. But I guess the UK is like real crap for artists and for immigrants. So she left the UK and went to Berlin, where she set up like a bunch of other things now. Like she set up this, I forgot what it's called, sham slut or something.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I saw that. Slam.
Yeah. Smut slam, which is like a poetry reading kind of thing, but it's all about like people's sex lives. And then she also like set up some other like artsy communities around the world. Like the slam slut is like they said it was like 10 cities around the world, including North America. I was like, wow, that's like really some crazy stuff she's doing.
Yeah, she's proving the point that sometimes you just need a really good idea, like one really good idea, and it just leads to so many other good things.
Yeah, and now like I kind of wish it was, so like Good Bar does those like journal reading things and stand-up mics. I was like, they need to do this at Good Bar if Good Bar was ever open. Smut Slam.
Yeah, that's a really good idea. I love those For anybody who's watching, it's like where you read your childhood diaries, and my friend Laura does hers, and it's hilarious.
Oh yeah, I've had a couple friends do them, and yeah, I loved it every time.
Yeah, they're so fun. I wish I kept a diary.
Yeah, I never did.
No, I had a blog for 1 year.
What, back in on LiveJournal or something?
Blogger.com. Blogspot.
Blogspot.com.
So if people want to see it, it's rochesterfringe.com. It's $15. I think you download it for your house too. So if like my husband and I wanted to watch it, I think we would just have to pay $15.
Yeah, it's probably just like 15 for one computer, right? And there is a live Q&A afterwards, so you can like talk to her about her life and like what she's doing now, what she did then, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, this is actually really interesting. I'm jealous that Rochester has this kind of stuff.
Oh no, well, Buffalo has a Fringe Festival too. It's just,
yeah, but we get like Shakespeare in the parking lot.
For our Fringe Festival?
Yeah, I feel like I've never, like this is something that I would be like, oh, I gotta go to that. I feel like, sorry if I'm hating on our Fringe Festival, but I feel like it's stuff that I'm annoyed when I stumble upon, not like I just need to seek this out.
I think that's like with all Fringe festivals, like some of it's art that is maybe like harder to understand, or like art that like doesn't like really fit my box. But the Buffalo Fringe Festival has had some really cool displays. They had like a horror movie night last year that had some like really artsy, cool horror movies. I'm pretty sure Mo's friend even made a horror movie for our coworker Mo. I think her friend made a horror movie for the Fringe Festival one time. I think it's a lot of art that maybe doesn't fit in like your box or my box, but there's like gems in that do. So I think
I saw a really good magician last year at the Fringe Festival.
Oh, really? Yeah, so they got like random stuff.
So I actually went last year. I was just told somebody else this the other day. Speaking of Fringe Festival, I was supposed to take a group of teenagers, and all of them canceled except for 2 who were dating. So it ended up with me just chaperoning a teenage date.
That's so nice of you. Every teenager needs a nice chaperone on their date.
It was awful. I was like, I could be home with my husband. Here I am, like trying to make sure they don't touch each other. It was great. It's exactly how I wanted to spend my Friday night.
Yeah, of course. Walking around to an arts festival that you didn't enjoy, making sure teenagers don't have sex.
Watching magicians. I actually do like magic.
Yeah. When I was a kid one time, I was in Boston visiting my sister at college with my other sister, and I had a magician. We saw a magician, and then he made me a hat, and I walked around the city with this giant hat on, and my sister literally wanted to kill me. It was a balloon hat. I didn't mention that. It was a balloon hat.
Yeah, no, I assumed it was a balloon hat. Yeah. That's hilarious and embarrassing. Okay, thank you, Liam, for another nice week together.
Yes, definitely. I enjoyed it. We'll be back hopefully next week, unless something changes. Sorry, we weren't here last week. Forgot. I forgot I had to go somewhere, and then I forgot to like tell it until the last minute. Cause life is chaos right now.
Life is chaos right now.
We are also trying to turn this into a podcast. So if anybody knows how to turn YouTube videos automatically into podcasts, hit me up.
Smash that subscribe button.
Hit that likes, hit the bell for notifications, and we will see y'all next week. Have a good one.
See you.